Hello, welcome along to the story cabin. Have you come for a tale? Yes? Excellent. Now our story today originated in India, although I've heard many different versions from many different places. And it features a flute, a little bit like this one. This is a wooden flute. It's a Native American design and it has a movable piece of wood on top, which is why there's this bit of twine round the top to hold it in place. The story is called The Black Prince. There was once, many moons ago, a great city, and in that city there lived a young boy called Raj. And every day Raj would leave his home and go to the marketplace, where he would find a comfortable place to sit, to play his flute, to earn a few rupees, to help buy food for him and his mother. But the favourite part of Raj's day was lunchtime. For at lunchtime, his friend Myra would come and join him and bring food, and together they would sit down and they would eat. And they would talk about everything and they would talk about nothing, and they would laugh and they would make up exciting stories about the various stallholders in the market and what had brought them to the city and to the marketplace. And Raj had a secret. He loved Myra. But he also had a problem. He thought he looked odd. He thought he was too short and too scrawny, and he thought his nose was crooked and his ears stuck out and his knees knocked together, and just everything. And he lacked the confidence to tell Myra how he felt. Now, on the day of our story, Raj mentioned the rumour about the princess who lived in the palace, about the fact that she was never allowed out into the city, that she could only go out and walk in the palace gardens that were surrounded by a high wall, a wall that was guarded day and night. Myra laughed and said, "Yeah, and she's meant to be the most beautiful girl in the world. Yes, 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 we've all heard it, but it's always somebody's uncle's shopkeeper's nephew who knows about this and has seen the girl, or possibly knows it's true." "Anyway," said Myra, "I've heard that she's quite stubborn and bossy." "Well, in that case," said Raj, "you'd be best friends." Myra punched him on the arm and they both fell about laughing. But that evening, Raj decided that he would prove Myra wrong. He went to the great wall that surrounded the palace garden. He waited until the guards were changing shift, and then he ran over and he climbed the wall, sat on its top in the shadow of one of the tall pillars that supported it, and he waited. He waited 1 hour, he waited 2 hours, and as he waited into the third hour, he caught a glimpse of somebody walking on a pathway between two high hedges. And after a few moments, the princess stepped out from between the hedges, and Raj's heart was broken. The princess was the most beautiful girl in the world, and she was his friend Myra. Raj thought to himself, well, what chance have I got now? I mean, look, I'm too scrawny and too short, and my nose is wonky, and my eyes are funny, and my ears stick out, and my knees knocked together. She's never going to like me now. I mean, I couldn't tell her before. I've got no chance now. She's a princess. And the only thing he could think to do was to leave the city and take his unhappiness with him. So that very evening, he put a few meagre possessions, including his wooden flute, into a small bag, and he just walked out of the city. Raj had walked along a road for 3 days, not really knowing or caring where he was going. And as the 4th day dawned, he found himself crossing a bridge that went over a deep valley with a river running quickly along its bottom. He stopped and leant on the edge of the stone bridge on the parapet and looked down. And as he looked down, he saw that there was somebody in the river, clinging desperately to some tree roots that stuck out from the bank, in danger of being washed away by the speed of the water. Without a moment's hesitation or thought for his own safety, Raj went running back along the bridge, down the side of the valley, tumbling and tripping as he went. And then as soon as he got to the edge of the river, he jumped in, caught hold of the same tree roots and helped lift the old man, for it was an old man, up onto the tree roots and then up onto the bank proper. And then with a great effort, he pulled himself out as well. Raj and the old man sat together on the bank, both gasping for breath, unable to speak. After a few moments, the old man said,
"Well, it was lucky for me that you came along, young Raj."
Raj said, I was just pleased to be able to help. What were you doing in the... Hold on a minute. I didn't tell you my name was Raj. How did you know?
Said the old man. "Well, there are some things I know, and there are some things I don't know, and I've worked a long time to try and make the group of things I know bigger than the group of things I don't. You might know me by the name of a Magus of 1,000 steps."
Now Raj had definitely heard of the Magus of 1,000 steps. He was a wizard, a sorcerer, reputed to have great powers. Raj asked him and said, "Well, what were you doing in the river?"
"I went down to collect a special herb that only grows by fast running water, and the bank gave way under my foot. Now, you were kind enough to save my life, and I would like to give something to you. What would you like?"
Raj thought for a moment and said, "Back in the city, 3 days' walk away, there is a princess called Myra, and I would like you to make her fall in love with me." The old man looked at him and smiled and shook his head and said,
"Love does not work that way, Raj. Is there something else that I can do?"
Raj thought for a moment and said, "Could you change how I look?"
"Possibly," said the Magus. "What is it that you would like?"
"Well," said Raj, "I would like to be taller and broader and stronger. I would like it so that my ears went back and my nose was straight and I was very handsome. I would like a great suit of black armour studded with jewels, and a great black sword in a black scabbard studded with gems. And I would like a great black horse, and tied to the pommel of its saddle, I would like a bag of gold and a bag of silver and a bag of diamonds and a bag of rubies."
"Ah," said the old man. "Not much, then. You know, even though you saved my life, for which I am very grateful, I think you must give me something else for so much of a change."
"Fair enough," said Raj, "fair enough. I have got 3 rupees.
The old man shook his head and went, No, Raj, that's not what I meant.
Raj went, well, hold on a second. And he checked his other pocket. He said, I have got a handkerchief and I've only half blown my nose on it once.
No, said the old man. That is not what I meant either. For me to change you, you will have to give me nothing more and nothing less than your ability to play the flute.
Now, perhaps we should pause for a moment there. I wonder, given this choice, what would you say? Would you say yes or would you say no? I can tell you that Raj didn't even think for more than a moment. He went, yes, fine, take it.
Are you sure, Raj? Asked the old man.
Absolutely, yes, no, fine, take it. So the Magus nodded 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And Raj felt a sense of cold running through him as though something was draining away. And then a sense of warmth as though something was running up through him. And as he stood there, he felt himself getting taller and he felt himself getting broader. And he felt his nose and it felt straight to him. And he looked down and his body was now encased in black armour studded with gems. And he had a black sword with a scabbard studded with jewels. And then he heard a in his ear and he looked round and there was the biggest black horse he had ever seen. And tied to the pommel of its saddle was a bag of gold and a bag of silver and a bag of rubies and a bag of diamonds. Raj said, "Thank you so much," because his voice had changed as well. He leapt into the saddle and said, "Myra can't help but fall in love with me now. I must go to the palace." And he started riding up out of the valley towards the road as fast as he could go. The old man called out after him,
"I'm not sure love works that way either, Raj."
But I don't think Raj heard him. Now, it had taken Raj 3 days to walk from the city, but on this fine black horse it took him only an hour and a half to get back to the city gates. He rode through the city gates, and as he went past, people commented and said, "Look at him, look, he must be a prince." Raj heard them and thought, yes, that's what I'll say I'm a prince. What a great idea, but what can my name be? And he looked down at his black armour and he looked at his black sword and he looked at his black horse and he went, "I will call myself the Black Prince." He rode in through the palace gates, dismounted from his horse and spoke to one of the guards and said, "Please go and tell the king that the Black Prince has come and would like to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage." The guard said, "Certainly, sir," and went running up the steps out of the courtyard into the palace. A few minutes later, the king came back down with the guard. He'd been eating breakfast and he still had his napkin tucked in the top of his shirt. As he walked down the stairs, he pulled it out and came down and said, "Now, what's this I hear about you wanting to marry my daughter?" Raj gave a bow and said, "Your Majesty, I am the Black Prince. I have heard of the beauty of your daughter Myra, and I wish to marry her. And as a gift I have brought you a bag of silver and a bag of gold, a bag of rubies and a bag of diamonds." "Oh, I see," said the king. "Well, just let me go and speak to my daughter." And he went hurrying back up the stairs into the palace. He went up and knocked on the door of his daughter's room. And when he went in, he said, "Now, Myra, my dear, I know in the past you haven't been very happy when I've done this, but there is a fine prince waiting downstairs who has heard about you and wants to marry you." "Oh, father," said Myra, "how many times are you going to bring these entitled idiots along? I am not going to marry any of them. I am going to choose who I marry." The king said,
It's never been done like that before. Maybe not, said Myra, but that's how it's being done now. Oh, said the king. Well, will you at least come and meet him? It'd be very rude not to meet him. Oh, very well, said Myra, and reluctantly followed her father back down into the courtyard. When she stepped down into the courtyard, Raj, the Black Prince, gave an even deeper bow and said, Princess Myra, your beauty is legendary throughout the land, and I have come to seek a boon, to ask for your hand in marriage. Myra looked at him and said, you can ask for my hand, you can ask for my foot, you can ask for my left knee. I am not marrying you. The king turned to her and said, Myra, you're being very rude. And I mean, look, he's very handsome and I think he's rich and I think you might grow to like him. Oh, Father, she said, Father, I'm not interested in all this money armoury stuff. I'm not going to marry him because I love somebody else. What? Said the king. What? Said Raj. Listen, she said, I've met somebody outside the palace and I love them and that's who I'm going to marry. But, said the king, you never go outside the palace. One of the servants who had come down the stairs with Myra went and quickly covered her mouth. The king looked round, and then the two guards standing at the bottom of the stairs into the courtyard both went. The king said, what's this business? Myra said, Father, my dear, for the last 4 years I've been going into the city every day. What? Did you know about this? Said the king to the servant. The servant said, yes, your majesty. The king walked up to one of the guards and said, did you know about this? The guard said, yes, your majesty. Everybody in the palace knows about this, apart from you, I'm afraid, sir. Well, said the king, no more of the nobody. Who is it, said the king to Myra, that you wish to marry? Well, every day for the last year and a half, said Myra, I have gone and joined this young lad in the marketplace, and I take food and we have lunch together and we talk about everything and we talk about nothing and we make up fantastic stories about where the market traders have come from. And he plays the flute so beautifully. And I love him. But, said Raj, but that's me. It's not you, said Myra. Raj doesn't look like you. With all the glitzy and dressy up and, no, he doesn't look like you. But it is me, said Raj. I got myself changed by magic. I didn't think you'd like me. Oh, really, said Myra. Can you prove it? I can, said Raj. And he reached into his little bag of belongings and he took out his wooden flute. He said, listen. Just as I thought, said Myra, and she turned on her heel and stamped back up the steps out of the courtyard. Raj took the reins of his horse in his hand, turned and walked away from the courtyard
out through the city until he came to one of the great city gates. There an old beggar sat and said, Could you spare a little something, sir? Raj opened his small bag of belongings and he took out his clay cup and he went to the fountain and he got some water and he gave it to the beggar. And then he untied the bag of silver and the bag of gold, the bag of rubies and the bag of diamonds from the pommel of the horse's saddle, and he gave each of them to the beggar. He said, Here, take these. I have no need of them now. The old beggar looked at him and said, Such a generous gift. There must be a story behind it. Please sit down and tell me more. So Raj sat down and told the whole story to the beggar. When he had finished, the beggar said, So you have learnt that people cannot be made to love by magic? Yes, said Raj. And you have learnt that what people own has nothing to do with love? Yes, said Raj. And I would give everything I have and more to be back as I was. A wise choice, said the beggar, smiled at Raj, leant forward and tapped him in the middle of the forehead. Raj felt something draining out of him, leaving him cold, and he shrunk down. He got shorter and narrower. As he looked down, he was in his old trousers and top, and then he felt something warm flooding up through his legs and filling him up. As quick as he could, Raj picked up his flute and went. He thanked the old beggar 1,000 times. Thank you, he said. You are welcome, Raj. Now back to the palace as yourself, said the Magus of 1,000 steps, for of course it was he. Raj ran through the streets as fast as he could go. In through the palace courtyards. The guards tried to grab him and stop him, but he ducked and he dived. He went up the staircase into the grand hall, and there was Myra and her father having an argument. Raj ran up and said, Myra, it was me. It really was me. I got changed by the Magus of 1,000 steps. It is me. Look. Myra laughed and laughed and hugged Raj. And the king said, Well, But he saw how happy his daughter was, and he knew what he needed to do. A year to the day later, Raj and Myra were married. And as far as anyone is able to tell me, they lived happily ever after. And that, my friends, is one version of the story of the Black Prince. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook. And I hope to see you again in the story cabin for another story very soon. Until then, take care.